All right, here we go.
Welcome to the All of You podcast. All right, babe. What are we talking about this week?
Well, I think with starting this, All of You was what we decided to name this. What do you think of when you think of the word all of, like the words all of you?
Well, to be honest, there's a few songs that come in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
Who sings these songs? Are we going to get sued?
We might. Yeah.
Jeez, that's a bummer.
It's not really a good way to start, but isn't, like all of me loves all of you? Is it John Legend? I don't know. Maybe we should keep this a secret from Chrissy Teigen because she's kind of feisty. She might come after us.
Already throwing shade on celebrities? Jeez, coming for it. I love that song. I love John Legend.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't know you, Chrissy Teigen, but I'm sure you're great.
Oh my gosh. Also, one of the things I love about you is that you actually don't know who Chrissy Teigen is.
No. Couldn't point her out in a crowd for sure. She could be in front of me in the line at Starbucks and I would have no idea.
That is fascinating.
I apologize. It's not something, no offense to anyone. Like,
your ability to hide from pop culture is something else.
It's not on purpose. Like, I am interested in it. It's just, I would say it's not in the circles. It's not on my normal feed. Like, my algorithm is not pop culture. So, yeah.
Well, I guess maybe I should answer your question. This is going to sound corny, but I think of all of me. And that includes the parts of myself I like, the parts I don't like, and the parts of myself I'm not yet aware of, but I'm actually trying to uncover. To me, the name All of You is almost a synonym for acceptance, because it's really about loving myself so well that I'm willing to learn the parts of myself that I don't like and I kind of cut myself off from so that I can improve them and grow. And so it's really about really loving myself so that I can show up better in the world.
So with self-acceptance, there's parts of yourself that you're not accepting. How does that even look? Like, what are the things that keep you from accepting all of you?
Our ego is our sense of self. Throughout our lives, starting in childhood, you have this self-identity, and that's actually a really positive, good thing. But as things happen throughout your childhood, whether that's traumas or whether that's, it could be things like getting bullied on the playground, things like that. Or maybe it's even something like your parents overly praising you and not coaching you enough. We're impacted by that and our ego changes. And so we can develop different coping strategies. For me personally, I go to like a defense mechanism of I need to be perfect. And part of that is I'm not going to be vulnerable because I don't want to let anyone in. And so my ego says I need to portray to everyone that I'm perfect. And all of that is on a subconscious level my whole life, right? And I wasn't aware that I was doing that. And so the parts of myself that I'm not aware of in that are that I have a defense mechanism that I will not be vulnerable with most people because I want to craft the way that they see me instead of show my authentic self. And so that's a part of me. That's something that I do, but that's also something that's massively held me back in life. So when you think about fundamentally relationships, what you bond with people over is like the humanness of it.
Authenticity,
right? It's really hard to connect with someone who's perfect. Like, you're like, what are you, a robot?
Yeah.
And so in me trying to put up this, like, I don't make mistakes, I'm perfect facade, I was actually keeping myself from deepening the relationships in my life. So that's what I talk about when it's like parts of me. Like, that is a part of me. That is something I do, but that's a part that I'm working on and I'm trying to grow through. And so it's accepting that I have been this way, still loving myself, giving myself compassion because of why I became that way was through different trials that I went through in my life, and going, but I don't have to stay there. I can actually learn how to be vulnerable, and I can deepen relationships with people, and I want to do that.
Well, I think that's too like something that we're all struggling with all the time is connection and building and trusting each other and learning how to be vulnerable and let people see the real us. Let people see all of us. You know, that's just a hard thing in life to grow. It's emotional maturity, it's confidence, it's true confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a struggle for everyone. You mentioned ego as one of the ways that we kind of deflect or create this facade, this identity that we believe is our true self. So how does it look when something conflicts with your ego story, your ego narrative?
I hate it. It doesn't feel good at all. Our ego is essentially, it's trying to keep us safe in a way. And that's
How's that? What is it? How's it keeping us safe?
so. Let's say a child. So if our ego is our sense of identity, and as a child something awful happens to them, the way that their ego copes and keeps them safe can be through disassociation. So what the kid says in their head is, that's not me, that's not happening to me. And so it doesn't allow that as part of their identity. So that's what, and we could use an example of like maybe a child's being abused and the way that they cope with that, because kids don't have options. You live with your parents. You don't have the option to live anywhere else.
Yeah,
There's
that's your
no
connection
choice
for life.
them,
You're
right?
looking to your parent to live.
Yeah. And so if a child's being abused, let's say by their parent, the way that they're going to cope with that, one of the ways is their ego is going to allow them to disassociate and say, that's not me, that's not happening to me, that's not real. So that can protect them when they're young, but then when they're older, it's actually a massive wound that they have to then go and heal. It doesn't serve them anymore. So while the ego can protect you when you're young and in certain circumstances, it also harms you in others. So, and in ways it can harm you is, let's take the opposite end of the spectrum, and you live with parents that only tell you how great you are and everything you do is perfect and you can do no wrong. Well, you then go to school and you're the kid that everyone's like, oh, Joey's so full of himself, and you're seen as like,
look at my new shoes, look at my new hat, look at me, look at what I did.
Yeah, you're the person that everyone goes like, oh, they have such a big ego. And so it actually is harmful because their perception of themselves is not accurate. They don't see themselves clearly. So really what I'm on a quest, for lack of a better word, to do is to actually balance my ego. I want to see myself accurately.
You want to see reality.
I want to see reality.
That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Yeah.
Why would you want to see it any differently? To be honest, other than
I know exactly why.
Subconsciously trying to protect yourself. Why? Yeah. Why would you?
Because seeing reality is painful. It's really painful to see the parts of ourselves that are not so pretty.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. And oftentimes you have to face the pain of why you became that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's
that
usually
doesn't
where
feel
your
good.
beauty is. That's where your beautiful gifts come from. So, my experience has been that some of my best gifts have come from the pain that I've faced. So if you were to ask me if I could have not gone through the things that I've gone through, I don't know if I would take it away. I just can't.
Really?
Yeah, because
I would.
it's like,
I don't like pain.
It's like people who, go through cancer and then survive, and you're like, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, but I would hate to go back to the way I was living before, because I have this new perspective on life. And that's if you face your pain and your hardship, it's where your character is built. It's without any pain in life, it's hard to build character. We are going to face pain in life just as is. We don't want to cause more on each other and cause unneeded pain, but through what you go through is what you grow through. Don't waste pain.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake of all, is to go through the pain, feel the pain, be hurt by it, and then not choose to grow from it.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree with you. However, in my life, it's not that I've gone through a lot of pain, and I would say I never want to waste pain, but it's taken me until the ripe old age of 34 to even realize the pain I was in a lot of the time. There's some pain that was very obvious to me of like, that was traumatic. Everyone knows that's traumatic. But then there's these other things that happened throughout my life that I kind of buried and was like, I'm fine. I'm a stuffer. So I just am like, nope, I'm not in pain. I was in denial about the pain I was in. And so it wasn't character building. I actually was just using coping mechanisms to avoid feeling it. And all of that was on a subconscious level. And so really,
because you weren't taught necessarily. No. I mean, this is kind of becoming more public knowledge these days, but most people in school, whatever, weren't taught how to handle emotional pain.
no, school taught me I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which,
get good grades,
Yeah.
or you won't make it in life.
yeah, totally. Which I've unsubscribed to. But I agree, it's not commonly taught. And so I feel like we're, as our generation, or maybe not even our generation, we're in this time where people are able to self-educate at a rate that was never possible before. We all have the internet at our fingertips. If you want to learn something, you can go to YouTube University. You can find a podcast on it. The access to learning is just out there. And so I feel like we are at this time where more people are learning this and learning how to heal themselves and how to become more aware. And I know this is kind of ranty, but I'm so passionate about this because of how dramatically it's changed my life for the better in learning this information. And now I can't stop learning it because I'm so passionate about it.
Learning how to become all of you.
Yeah.
And accept all of yourself.
Yeah.
I heard this thing recently. I wish I could give credit to whoever it was, but it was like, we brush our teeth every day to avoid cavities. We work out, we do these things, these regimens, these exercises, these things. Working on your mental health is the same thing. If you don't work on your mental health and you don't take inventory of what's happening to you in your life and what is painful and how to recognize that was just painful. Let me figure out why. Why am I in pain? Why did that? And it's such a conundrum because I feel like I I was brought up in this, whatever, toxic masculinity probably of stuff it and don't feel your feelings. And so it's weak-minded to acknowledge your pain. Don't pay attention to how you feel. A lot of people are saying that still to this day. And I believe that there's a truth to that. Don't just follow your feelings. Don't just wake up in the morning and decide I don't feel like going to work today or whatever. You'll never get anywhere if you don't want to, get past that. But it also takes a strength to go, my reaction did not match the circumstances. So therefore it must have triggered some type of past pain for me. Let me unpack that. Let me actually do the work to journal about it. Let me be curious about myself to then really deep dive into what was painful for me so that I can accept that part that I'm denying. It's an opportunity to then discover a memory that you might be avoiding or in denial about your own self, your own life, your own experience.
Well, we go into denial when reality is too painful.
The ego is always trying to avoid the reality.
Often people, like I said before, when people refer to they have such a big ego, there's something in that person that tells them, in order to be safe, in order to feel okay, I need to act like I am, name the thing. It could be
better, bigger, faster, stronger.
Yep. I'm the class mom and I'm the most active one in the classroom and I'm so much better than all the other moms in the pickup line. Whatever it is your ego is attached to, it's saying that I'm going to be okay if I'm this. And that's actually not true. A lot of what I think we plan to talk about is how do we get our brain to believe reality? And part of that is getting us to believe the right things about ourselves and become aware of what we're thinking that is incorrect.
Yeah, there's so many ways that we can avoid reality. What's a way that you tend to do it?
Oh, my defensiveness. My defensiveness is me not willing to accept reality. And I can be, so if you're trying to get me to see something from your perspective and it's painful for me, maybe it's something that I'm doing that bothers you or is painful for you. I don't want to believe that reality because to me, hurting you is painful. And so I'll be like, no. Your reality is false. Actually, you're just being too critical of me. I'm not hurting you. That's not true. And so I will deny and I will defend and I will fight you to the death to prove that what I'm doing is not hurting you because it hurts me to think I'm hurting you. And that is absolutely out of reality when I do that. And I know that I do it. And but what's cool is the awareness that I do that is what is allowing me to show up better when we
change it.
To change it. Now, when you come to me and you're like, hey, this hurt me, I'm actually able to go, it did? Oh, I'm so sorry. Where before I would actually be like, no, it didn't. But I also think a lot of people are unwilling to talk about things because egos are fragile.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't want to hear. And I say there, I've been there. Hi, I'm Siobhan, and I am also have a fragile ego sometimes.
Thank you for admitting that.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah, we all do.
All have it.
Yeah.
And the ego work is really and the reason why it's so important to fight your ego is because, and I think ego is seen as a strength, and it can be, I guess, but when you break it down, if it's causing you to not accept reality, that's a weakness, in my opinion. You want to be as clear on the subject as possible. When you're so defensive, you can't accept reality. That can lead you down a wrong path real quick.
Yeah. Are there times where you don't accept reality?
Yeah, for sure.
What's one of them?
I spent my whole life trying to deny my reality and deny the fact that I grew up without a father. I did not want to believe that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is not that you were denying that your dad left. You were denying that it impacted you.
Yes.
You knew your dad left.
Yes.
Like, that's reality was kind of evident to see. But what you weren't willing to come to terms with is it actually really hurt you.
Well, and actually what happened, and I won't go fully into it, but what happened was he left and he still wanted somewhat of a relationship. And I rejected him. I mean, I was 5 or 6 years old, but I didn't want to. I was probably in so much pain that I rejected him. And so I told myself that I chose to grow up without a father. I believed it was my doing, and it wasn't. I was young. I couldn't. I shouldn't have been able to make that. How can a child reject their parent? Like, I would not let the girls just reject me. Like, let's talk. Why are you rejecting me? And not make it about me? But he obviously didn't have the tools in that situation. And so I've forgiven him and accepted the reality of the pain. But that was the biggest one for me until I was able to view it for reality and give myself the grace that I deserved as a child. I was in a lot of pain for a long time that I was completely in denial about the pain. I've described it to you before. Like, it was like I was walking around with a broken leg, denying that it was broken and just walking on it and just beating it up and not really, like, never getting in a cast, never caring for the wound. And I think a lot of us do that. That's what we naturally do to avoid. The pain is so hard to accept, especially at a young age, to feel that rejection. I mean, there are people who go through a breakup and are in so much pain, which is really painful. But a 5 or 6 year old losing their parent is just like unexplainable at that age. So you really go into a state of denial. Until I was in my 30s did I fully accept it, until I did hard inner child work.
How did that pain show up throughout your life?
Insecurities, massive insecurities towards men. I had this insecurity that I would be afraid that I was different, that I didn't know. I mean, the truth is I didn't know what manly things were. Like, I didn't know what was happening to me when my body started changing. My mom tried her best, God bless her, but I didn't truly know what was really going on with me. And I was just a scared kid, and it just impacted me. And then avoiding the pain caused me to go into some pretty big depression at one point. And I think we'll talk about that, more over time, depression and mental health, but it costs you a lot when you can't see reality for what it is.
Yeah. And a lot of, I think, I wouldn't say our reality, but the lens in which we see the world through that we deem as reality is formed as a child through our family of origin, our upbringing, things that happen at school, all these things that happen when we're young kids, and the influences society has on us. That creates the lens that we see things through. And then as adults, we think, oh, that's reality. And so a child can grow up in a house where the parents are fighting every night, and they might think, oh, that's just what parents do. That is reality. And they grow up and they fight with their spouse 24/7, and they go, this is actually just what relationships are, because that's their perception of reality. And so for me, I am questioning my reality in all different ways, because I want to question what I believe, because ultimately I could be believing things that actually aren't true. And that wasn't my reality. My parents didn't fight every night, but just as an example, there are things that I grew up believing that I now go, wait, that's actually not real. And
yeah, it happens to us.
Yeah.
It happens to us at school. We pick up little things, little quips and things that we believe, and what we wear. Our identity just happens to us. All of you is within. It's inside. It's not your clothes. All of you is not your ego story, your narrative. It's not your friend group. It's not your how many followers you have on Instagram. All of that has influenced who you've become, but you can choose to take some of that or leave it. And it's really what's in you and how you feel inside of you that is the biggest, most important part of you. And I think if we deny that and keep chasing, where does it end?
Well, I think we keep chasing things outside of us when we don't want to go inward to find out who we are, or we don't know how to, or that we should. I think that's part of my story, is not knowing how to go within myself to know who I am, and kind of coping with feelings throughout my life by chasing things outside of me, or coping with feelings I didn't want by chasing things outside of me instead of going within me to heal them.
Would you say travel?
Yeah, massively. Yeah. I'm nearly 40 countries. I think you could say travel was a strong coping mechanism, and not to say that travel is a bad thing.
It's great.
Absolutely love it.
So is clothes is a great. Everybody likes a nice shirt or likes to feel good. None of this is bad.
It's only bad when you're using it to avoid going within, feeling your feelings.
Yep. And it can't do that.
Right.
And so we actually are never fulfilled by it. And so you always need that next trip. You need to go to 41 countries. You're defined by where you haven't been, because when you define yourself for where you've been and where you've traveled to, you're also defined by where you haven't been. Because how does that even, you can't be defined by what you've done without feeling the opposite. If you have a big ego that is constantly defining yourself by things outside of yourself, because you might actually define yourself by your relationship too. That's a little bit too much pressure.
Way too much pressure.
Yeah. So accepting all of you helps yourself to be able to accept all of someone else. It helps accept the reality that you hurt someone, or that something you're doing is causing a disconnect in the relationship that maybe you might want to change. To believe that you can chase something to feel more safe. You can do that if you want. You can chase your ego and try to conquer the world.
Well, to be fair, society actually tells us we should. I think we are brought up to believe you need to be a good student so you can go to college. All these societal standards of what life should look like. And something that I believe that might actually be controversial is I don't believe there are any bad people. I think that, and that includes people who've committed crimes. I don't believe that anyone sets out and wakes up in the morning is like, I'm going to do bad today and I'm going to cause harm and damage. I really don't subscribe to that. I think that people are raised and grow up with a lens. And when I say a lens, like things that happen to them throughout their life, that when they become adults, they think that their perception is reality, but their perception is harmful to others, and they don't know what they do. So I believe that all people, if they learn how to be self-aware, if they learn that we are all wounded and we can heal our wounds, I actually believe that anyone can change. And I don't want to say become good, because I don't really like the whole thought process of like good people and bad people, but less harmful people. I actually truly believe that anyone can heal, change their perception, and stop hurting people. I believe that the people that harm others just, and maybe this is overly compassionate of me, but they don't know what they do. They don't see the wrong in it. But they can be taught. I believe anyone is redeemable in that way. And I think that's actually why I'm so passionate about mental health, self-growth, and healing wounds and all of this work, because ultimately I think it's, and this is, it sounds almost silly to say, but I think it's what could change the world. I truly believe that.
I agree. I think that we hurt people. So if you can create a sense of safety within yourself, you can be hurt and not pass the pain on. You're doing a great service to the world by becoming a pain absorber, not adding pain, not reciprocating it. And when somebody's hurt so bad in childhood, they're still looking for safety. We're all looking for everything that motivates us. Talk about all of us, all of you. Trying to figure out what you're motivated by is kind of one of the biggest keys, I think. At the core level, safety, connection, love, that's what we want. Almost like food, it's really a basic human need, is that connection and feeling of belonging. And you watch kids who are rejected in their homes end up in gangs where they're accepted. We're all motivated by that core feeling of safety, security, connection, and admiration by others too, maybe a little bit, because that's where the ego starts to drive itself and creates these false narratives of now I just did something bad and some people admired me for it, because there are people who will admire bad things. So now I'm gonna double down on that and do something worse. It's feeding something. And if you can figure out what it is and really break it down and realize that all you're looking for is safety. I mean, tell somebody who's been in gangs and done a really bad thing, all you were motivated by is that feeling inside. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, you did. Why did you do that? Because my boys, my boys got the respect on the street. It's like, so you were looking for connection and admiration from others? That should have been given to you when you were a child from your parents. When you're not given it at a young age, it can create such a wound that then that one wound, now you take down hundreds of people. You're now like a zombie on this world because on a subconscious level, you've realized you're not safe and nothing's going to ever make you safe. And you're going to do everything you can to prove to whoever. And so you then go and just demolish. If you can accept all of you and accept your wounds and realize that that was unfortunate, your loss was not your fault as a child. Accepting all of you is accepting your pain, what you've been through, what you've done, the mistakes you've made, how you've harmed people, what you're not good at, your everything. It's accepting all of who you are on this planet and living out your experience. Now, you can fight it and you can deny it, but that's your choice. I would say my story is, it's way better once I sat down and sat in my own seat and said, this is my seat. This is the one that I'm living. And let me figure out how to be okay in this body. And I get another one. How can I actually create some safety in here? Because this is where I live every day. When I lay my head at night, I'm in here. So creating safety and security in that is a game changer.
That was so beautifully said. I don't think I could possibly add to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Went on a little rant.
Yeah, I loved it though. I appreciate you sharing it.
That's all of you. Obviously, there's so much to talk about that we're going to unpack with it. Like we said, denial, defense, the ego, codependency, connection.
Limiting beliefs.
Yeah, big one. I love it. Love you.
Love it too. Love you.